Hi, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video. I want to talk for a little bit about the game that we love, basketball. If you're on this channel, you probably like basketball at least a little bit, but you know, basketball has some flaws, some things that people have talked about, flopping, foul baiting, things like that. And so I've been thinking on this for a while. This is a video that's been in the works for a long time. I wanted to talk about if I were made commissioner, what are some changes I would make to the game of basketball in the NBA setting? This is stuff that I've really thought about for a while. I think I've come up with some really good rule changes, so I've come up with 5 that I really feel super passionate about. So let me know what you think of these rule changes, and let me know what you would change about the game of basketball in the comment section below. I'm curious to hear what y'all have to say. So, gonna go also leave a like and subscribe, it helps me out a lot. But of course, we're gonna start off with number 1, which there's been a lot of talk about maybe adding a 4-point line to the NBA. You know, shooters are better than ever. People are pulling up from like half court and making threes. And so some people have thought, what if we found a way to reward them and had like a 4-point line beyond that where shooters could just pull up from there, make comebacks a little bit cooler. Like, it sounds like a pretty cool concept, but to me, 4 points, it just kind of feels like a lot. Like, imagine you make 2 shots and you have 8 points. That's just way too much, where if you make, that's like 4 layups. And that conversion rate, you know, it just doesn't feel right. So instead, I thought about what if we had 3.5 pointers. So beyond the 3-point line, there's like this little section, like maybe like a couple circles on the court, or we can even make it a line if you want to go with that. And if you shoot beyond that line, you get 3.5 points. So we could have final scores like, imagine you're down 3, you hit a 3.5 pointer and you win 103.5 to 103, stuff like that. Like, I feel like it could be pretty fun. It's a cool way to integrate math into the NBA, you know, all these decimals. If we really wanted to, we could even have like beyond that, like maybe a 3.67 point line. You could have like a 3.33 point line, stuff like that, you know. Just, I think it could make, you know, the game a little more intricate. I think it adds a little bit of strategy. So that's one of the ideas that I came up with. I feel really good about that one. To me, I feel like it's a good way to evolve the modern game. If we want to go even crazier in the future, maybe we can think about adding maybe a 4.167 line or a 4.4.4 line, things like that. So just, you know, one of the ideas that I have. The second one that I have is about challenges. You know, challenges have become so big in the NBA, where coaches can call a timeout and challenge a call, especially at the end of games. It's critical to get these calls right. However, they're stupidly boring, and it takes way too long for people to challenge. There was that one Lakers-Clippers game where there was a challenge that went on for like 10 minutes. It felt like, for a call that really was not, it didn't end up being that important. So to me, I want to keep people interested. I want to keep people engaged in the game of basketball. And I think a great way to do that is when coaches challenge a call, rather than, you know, going to a review booth and talking to people in some like other place that are looking at the game. You know, they're not even there. So how do they really know what happened? You know, stuff like that. Instead of doing all of that, you have the coach play one-on-one against the ref that made the call, first 1 to 5. If the ref wins, their call stands. If the coach wins, then the call is overturned. I think that's a fun way to kind of mix things up. You know, it keeps the basketball action going, and I think it adds a lot of strategy to the NBA. When hiring a coach, you can't just hire, like, Greg Popovich probably isn't going to win a lot of those one-on-ones. A lot of those refs, you know, doing a lot of running back and forth, they've got some good stamina, and Greg Popovich, no offense to him, he's a little bit older. So, you know, I'm not sure how great his cardio is at this point. He does have to run up and down the court, you know, talk to his team, yell at them sometimes probably. I'm sure he's in decent shape, but some of those refs like are in really good shape. You've got some really taller refs too. And so I think it would add a lot of strategy where you've got to hire a coach that can hoop. You've got to hire a hooper to be your coach. You could have like say, for example, Shaq would probably be a pretty big coaching candidate coming out of this because he's super tall. Even if he's a little bit older than some of these refs, he could probably take them out in a game to 5, you know, playing half court, you know, winner, like makes it, takes it, stuff like that. Your typical rules. I think Shaq could probably win a few of those. And so Shaq, maybe he goes down as the greatest coach of all time. Who knows? This is just something, you know, I was thinking about. Keeps the game going, keeps some action, keeps the coaches involved, and adds a little bit of strategy. I think it would be a fun way to kind of, you know, get that opportunity. Everyone loves to see referees get involved in games, of course. So people probably want to see the refs do this, you know, see the coaches get involved. Everyone came to see the coaches and the refs. So I think this is a good way to make sure that everyone's getting their fill of those important players in our NBA. Number 3 is that, you know, tanking is a big issue in the NBA, and I think I've come up with a pretty good way to halt tanking. you've got teams that are purposely sitting players, teams that are purposely trying to lose. The Magic have been doing an exceptional job of tanking, sitting their starters in fourth quarters, even though it's a close game. And people don't like it. People want to see the best players out there playing. So my thought is the team that wins the finals gets the number one overall pick. It makes a lot of sense. You've got, say for example, this past year, the Bucks. They won the finals. They would get Cade Cunningham, and no one wants to see Cade Cunningham like not succeed. Everyone, I'm sure, wants to see him succeed. And if he goes to the Bucks, he gets to play with Giannis, Drew, Chris Middleton. It would be so fun for Cade Cunningham to go ahead and have a chance to win a championship right off the bat. You've got guys like a Jalen Green could have gone to the Phoenix Suns, or adding an Evan Mobley or something like that. I'm sure that's what everyone wants, to really see talent consolidated in these places. And so I think this is a good way to ensure that rookies are finding their success. So many people are mad about tanking and wasting players' timelines, trying to, eventually become a championship contenders, whatever the hell that means. So people, I'm sure that all these people that are mad about tanking would be much happier if we just put the best players in the draft on the best teams. I think it would work out pretty well. I think we'd have a nice power balance, a lot of parity with all these great teams getting more great players. Don't worry about the rest of the teams. That's unimportant in the situation. But overall, I think this is a good way to kind of rework the lottery system. So many teams get screwed by the lottery. So just do away with it. Just give the first overall pick to the best team. We'll see what happens. So that is my third idea. My fourth idea is in terms of the playoffs. A lot of people have thoughts about the playoffs, the play-in tournament, but for me, I'm looking at something more in particular. For me, something that I've always thought about is we want to see like the best players play in the playoffs, right? We want to see the best players in the finals. So an idea that I had is for the playoffs, every team that you beat, you get to take their best player and add them to your roster for the rest of your playoff run. For example, say this year, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets match up in round one. The Bucks end up winning. They get Kevin Durant for the rest of their run. And then say they go up against a Sixers team that, like, say they played like the Celtics and they beat them and they took like Jason Tatum. Then say they beat them, they could pick like maybe Jason Tatum or Joel Embiid or James Harden to add to that team, to get to the point where in the finals you've got these two squads that have all these different all-stars on them. I feel like that's exactly what everyone wants to see. It would be like an all-star game. Guys could be throwing alley-oops to each other, play defense for one of the four quarters. I think it would be a good time. Give rings to all those guys, get all these guys involved. To me, it feels like that would be something that would have no real issues with it at all. I think it would be perfectly fine. And so I feel like imagine if like the Phoenix Suns last year, like throughout their run, added like LeBron James or Anthony Davis. They added Luka Doncic. Say they played the Mavericks this year or something like that in like a Western Conference semifinal. Last year they would have added like Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert. They could have added Paul George to go up against the Bucks. Maybe they win. Or the Bucks with like Kevin Durant and whoever they played in the other rounds. Oh, Trae Young. That's a guy they played. Jimmy Butler. Like, I think it would be a good time. Just get another all-star game out there. Let's do it. And finally, my fifth idea that I have, a lot of people have complaints about like injuries and stuff like that, kind of, ruining playoff series, taking away from teams. So my thought is that we have no trade deadline. Just none. Like, there is no deadline. Everyone loves trades. One of the most fun things about the NBA is the offseason and the trade deadline. So what if instead of a trade deadline, there was none? It sounds like a good idea to me. Imagine you're in the finals and your team is down like 3-1, 3-2, and you desperately need to get a win. You go up, call one of those teams that's eliminated, and you go, hey, we will trade you these two guys right now. You give us this player so that we can try and win a championship right now. The team's like, sure. So you give up like 4 first-round picks, like a young guy to bring in a superstar right then and there in the NBA Finals, and the other team's like, oh, shoot. They go ahead. They call another team. Like, say, example, they call up like say the Utah Jazz, who got eliminated in the first round. There's rumors that Gobert or Donovan Mitchell want out. They call up the Utah Jazz. They go, hey, what do we need for Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert? We'll give you young players right now so that we can go ahead and win. I think this is a great idea. I think having no trade deadline, just in the middle of the NBA Finals, switching things up, switching up the rosters, I think it's a good time. Everyone loves super teams. I think everyone enjoys when we see this, like, these all-time great teams play in the finals. Like, nobody likes parity. Everyone wants to see teams win. And so having those like great players all on the same roster, giving them a chance to make those trades right there at the moment, I don't know. I think it would work pretty well. So those are my 5 changes that I would make. There were some other ones that I considered, like, I know everyone loves the NFL's overtime rule so much where whoever scores first wins. So my thought was, let's just make OT sudden death in the NBA. But, that one missed the cutting floor for some of these other great ideas that I had. I thought about some other things, including, like, rather than having players play, what if the refs just play? Or if a player fouls out, a ref gets to take their spot? Other really good ideas. But if I had to narrow it down to 5, these are the 5 ideas that I came up with. So I appreciate y'all listening. NBA, if you see this, please make sure to implement these changes immediately to save your game. Otherwise, you're in big trouble. So I appreciate y'all watching. Let me know some of your ideas down below. I hope you have a good month of April. Once again, appreciate you watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Real one, say it back.